note this, because of the reasoning that she has used to expand the universe, that Asians have always existed in and how we view authors that were clearly not diverse, and whether or not we let them get away with not being diverse at a certain point in time. So what is the stance coming from opening government? We think that JK Rowling has no right to utilize other cultures. We think that she cannot have access to them in writing their new material. So what is the policy coming from opening government? Firstly, there would be no more expansion of the culture that would be included in the Wizarding World. This to suggest that she will stick to the original source material of wherever or whatever areas she used in the original Harry Potter books. This also means that she is likely not going to add in maybe other Indian cultures or any new countries. Anything in principle that was not in the original Harry Potter books, we are against adding it in. What is the kind of diversity that we are okay then? View new words. Anything that is distinct and separate from Harry Potter, go for it. Create stories, that's fine. Just don't add them into the old stories of Harry Potter. So what is this debate about? It's about two issues. Firstly, where is representation better in the sense of how literary authors approach representation and the ways in which we hold them accountable. But secondly, where is the perception to representation not as harmful? So my first argument, let's talk a little bit about the context of where this is happening. So what is JK Rowling's reasoning usually for expanding and entering and including new cultures? The reasoning that she has had has been that they've always existed, or that these individuals and these characters have always been there, but we just never got access to them, we never saw them, because Harry never just went to these areas. This means that all of these new areas that she potentially introduces or potentially enters are not explicitly mentioned in the book. So why is this specifically important? Her original source material was not diverse, but in an attempt at the universe, she presents the old source material as one that was diverse. She retrospectively changes the content of the material and retrospectively suggests that it was diverse. Why is this specifically harmful? This is the same problem as to why representative characters are not being written. JK Rowling writes works that are not diverse. She writes works that don't explicitly mention people of color or gay individuals. She, as an author, has a heavy influence in the community because of just how celebrated she is. If JK Rowling does this, all other authors too can do the same. So what does this mean? It means they never have to explicitly write a diverse character. Rather, all they can suggest is that retrospectively this person was gay. This person did come from a different country. Notice, this is the unique context that opposition must operate in. It is not enough to introduce representation if it comes at the cost of an author getting away with hiding the previous works that were biased. The second harm that occurs here, and this is where I'm going to attempt. So let's assume I'm wrong and I read all the 7 Harry Potter books wrongly and there's apparently a mention of China somewhere. Even if it is representative, I think you have to note the current context that Harry Potter is currently in. The Fantastic Beasts series does not have the same clout that Harry Potter does. Yeah. It's not doing as well. The monetary sales are not as great. So what does this mean? In order to sell the cultures within her universe, she has to make them as palatable as possible to the average viewer. This means signifying or simplifying the way a Chinese wizard would cast a spell. Or this means introducing a op-ed version of the Americas in these areas. What this means is that you reduce these cultures to caricatures because you have to attain or pander to the common audience. It is true that you have the clout of Harry Potter backing you, but that doesn't mean that audiences precedent for how representation is carried out. But secondly, the type of cultures that are introduced or the type of the ways they are introduced is problematic because you have to reduce them to caricatures to make up for the loss of popularity that Harry Potter has, or that Fantastic Beasts cannot give them. The third level, we live in an age where political correctness has gone insane. People are just looking for reasons to be offended. People just always want to be angry. And I think this is true for a couple of reasons. When JK Rowling writes an Asian character, there is outrage. When she doesn't, there is also outrage. What does this suggest? It suggests to a large amount of authors that if even the most successful female author cannot get away with these claims, or they just cannot get away with being representative, then maybe I shouldn't attempt to either. This is true because JK Rowling just represents an existential threat. There's Trump keep the movements consistent in the world of government. So what does this mean? At every point in which she is slandered, it makes another author just think twice before they include a representative character. They think twice before writing in a gay character because they're worried about that sort of backlash as to whether or not they can properly represent the character. That's why it's significantly harmful. Before I move on, yes.
Wait, so you are okay with new words that expand on the reasoning world that include other cultures?
No, I explicitly say in my policy notes. New words that are not Harry Potter, you can go and create a new story, new characters. Listen properly next time. So the third thing, what happens at the point in which you allow for her to carry out with these characters? I think this is about where that it is definitely not very diverse. They know that. It's a fact. What happens at the point that you try to introduce these diverse characters is that you pit the Harry Potter fans against each other. Now it is J.K. Rowling becoming a sellout, and the reason as to why the stories are no longer great is because of minority characters. Because she tried to expand away to the source material, or she tried to include all of these Asian regions that were previously not in the Wizarding world. The point of Harry Potter getting worse is because of these minority characters. That's why you pin the exclusive blame to the introduction of diversity. What is the parallel? Superman being introduced as a female, or maybe Marvel Comics is reintroducing a lot of like Iron Man as a black girl, and the sales plummeting, and people suggesting that it was because a black girl was introduced that Marvel Comics are not doing well. This debate is about assessment of representation. It is not enough for opposition to argue that it is diverse. Suggests, and it's literally the wording, it's not even in the info slide, that J.K. Rowling can expand the wizarding world of these cultures. This means that OG cannot get away with, they can only create new works that is totally like not in the wizarding world already. If she wants to write Harry Potter and China or something, then that's fine, and OG has to defend that from happening. But it's important to note the stance of open competition. We do not care if J.K. Rowling is a racist. We do not care if she's doing it just for clout. We think that the position, the unique position that she's in, as OG also agrees on, that she's very influential and she's one of the best female writers ever. The incorporation of Asian characters is super important. The second thing that we like to argue also is that I don't think the incorporation of Chinese characters in Harry Potter Wizarding World is an attempt to show the culture of Chinese people. So what we want isn't to show the intricacies of China and Hokkien and Cantonese dialects. We just want Newt to be an Asian guy. He doesn't have to pander to what an Asian looks like. He can just say Expelliarmus, and that's good. We think Asian people being normal and not having to pander towards their culture is already a benefit that we have. Sit down. So I have two arguments today. Firstly, why representation is so important, and secondly, why the trajectory of Hollywood right now is for Asian cultures, but only specifically when you talk about only Asian culture, why we want to make it not just only about Asian culture, but it can be normal. It can be a normal guy in America and things like that. Before that, a few points of responses. The first thing that Navi suggests is that retrospective changing is a bad thing. So I read is that it's that authors cultures in towards their fiction. So that means that when they write a new book, because it's strategic to do so, they will also incorporate new things. So that's also a benefit that we have. We don't think authors will just change every single story that they have, and then going on they only have white characters. So that's wrong. The next thing we would say is that they say that now these cultures will be seen as
caricatures where you are reduced towards like specific things, right? We don't think this is necessarily true, and we don't think it has to be this extreme. So note that in the wizarding world, there's no white culture, there's no Asian culture, there's just wizarding culture, and like, you know, there's pots and pans and things like that. So your Asian person, you don't have to show this Asian person's culture. You can just have an Asian actor doing normal things that a wizard would do in this world. So you're not going to reduce them to anything. You're just going to have like Ronald Weasley being funny and like Asian and like cool. You don't have to show his culture whatsoever. We just want representation of Asian people in these places. They don't have to like be in certain tropes. Sit down. The next thing that they say is that there will be backlash. So what happens now is that if the films do badly, that means people will blame it on the minorities. I have two things to say. The first thing is they assume that you will do badly. Like, we're not sure why you do badly. If it does well, then great. People will say that minorities are good. But the second thing we like to say is that if people do backlash, that's a good thing. This means that people are so fucking racist that if your Asian person does not act like an Asian person in the normal trope of that funny Asian guy or that hot Asian chick, that means that they will say, oh, it's such a shit movie. That's amazing, because that means you can identify who these people are and call them out. You can say that you are damn racist because you're pinning it on this minority in general. So I think that if backlash is inevitable, at least we can call these individuals out. We can engage them, say that this Asian did not do anything whatsoever. He was fine and he was not the fault of it. These are important things to call out these racists and argue against them. What are my arguments? Okay, before that, just my stance. We want JK Rowling retroactively, all fiction, whatever. Just put Asian characters, put a like, you know, Spanish in there. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So why is representation important? The first thing we need to characterize is the unique position of JK Rowling and who she is. So Navi was correct to suggest that she's one of the biggest female authors. But not only that, she created the wizarding world, which has created so many fans. So some people want to drink butterbeer, I don't know what the hell that is, but people are willing to go to all these Disneylands or specialized Harry Potter themed worlds. This means that she has not only a large following, but the second thing is that even when she has other books that aren't as successful, because it operates in the wizarding world, people still want to watch Fantastic Beasts because they want to see Dumbledore as a young kid, because there's still the cool like Avada Kedavra spells that are still being used. So it doesn't have to be like her new books doesn't have to be amazing. People will still follow it religiously and still watch these movies. That's important because J.K. Rowling has the clout to have any book she writes, have all the movies and all the productions, and it's super important because that's what individuals consume and that's what individuals want to see. So what are the benefits of this Asian representation? So we have to know that the current position of Asian representation in films is always following the tropes of what white people see as of us. So it's always this fat Chinese guy who makes a very funny joke in the class. It's always this hot Asian girl that is really sexualized as a geisha. We think that that's so horrible and so shit. The reason how J.K. Rowling can overcome this is by including these individuals as like, you know, normal people who don't have to follow to normal tropes that Asians always have to subscribe to. So that is the benefit of showing this to individuals. This means that people who consume these books and consume these movies will realize that, hey, maybe this Asian person doesn't have to be like hot to be like a good like contributor towards the movie. I'll take you after this argument. The second thing that we will also say is that it is so empowering towards Asian people. When I was young, I watched James Bond, some white guy. I want to be like James Bond, but he's not Asian, right? I still like him, but if he was Asian, I would like him even more. And the parallel to this is how empowered African American people were when they watched Black Panther. All the Asians, I hate romance, but I want to watch Crazy Rich Asians because I want to be represented. These are all benefits and representation that we can have under our side. The second thing is the trajectory of Asian culture. So note that we like Black Panther, we like Crazy Rich Asians, but we don't think it's enough. Because these are the only time Asian people get these big roles is when the movie is about Asia and about their culture. This is a trend that Hollywood is utilizing. Once Crazy Rich Asians finish, once the Black Panther saga finishes, we're not going to have as many of these movies. We think movies need to focus not only on focusing on Black Panther and focusing on Crazy Rich Asian culture, but just have them in normal movies doing normal things. This can only happen when we have some really amazing clout woman called J.K. Rowling incorporating these people in his movies. What is the conclusion? The conclusion is that Asian actors, number one, don't have to follow the tropes that are already set by them, which are really, really racist. But number two, they can be seen as normal. They can be seen as someone who can just flick your wand and doesn't have to be associated with Chinese tea. We are extremely proud. So,
deep down inside Navi's heart, she recognized that representation is important, and that's why OG pigeonhole their whole case is only based on retroactively making these characters Asian or making these characters black, and that's why we think it's unfortunate that they lost large part of the debate. Few things. Number one, we think if viewers were to happen in their world, to be made in their world, those same harms that they claim can also happen in their world as well. If you say that JK Rowling has incentive to represent, if you say JK Rowling has incentive to represent inaccurately, wouldn't that happen worse in your world? Because then you're also supporting these new works. Second, we say these new works has less clout compared to the works, the pre-existing work. And therefore, for example, the argument about these works failing will happen a lot more in your work. So if it's a new work and a really separate one, it cannot arrive on the cloud that Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts have, and therefore these movies are more likely to flop in your works, and so we blame minorities even more. So the comparison is, even if it's true, minorities will get blamed if the movies do flop. In your works, your new works, even worse, because no one is going to watch it because it's not related to Harry Potter. The only reason why you watch Fantastic Beasts is because it's related to Harry Potter. So the first question that I want to answer is it a problem if we really retroactively change the characters like personality or race, whatever? The first thing is, just because something is not mentioned does not mean it is not there. It is like mistaking things that we don't see as things that don't exist, right? So it's true that JK Rowling never explicitly said that Hermione was black, but she also never explicitly said that Hermione was white. And it's fair for her to say, and it's fair for her to actually cast the black girl for her Harry Potter and Curse type play, because she never explicitly said what Hermione was when she was white or black. And secondly, reading JK Rowling, it's not stupid to actively contradict what she said in the book, right? She's not going to say that, oh, Hermione is black, then she is white, but she the same thing, something like that. It doesn't make sense. So yes, just because she didn't mention, does not mean she cannot change it, because it's up to her, it's her book. Like, what's your problem with her? I don't know. What's your big JK Rowling? I don't get it. Second, we think this introducing new things is true in literature in every other sense. For example, introducing a new character, introducing a new plot twist, a new backstory. These things are simply part of how you write a literature, right? You cannot simply lay everything on the table first. You must include something for suspense, for whatever purpose that you might have in the future if you want to write literature. And yeah, we just don't get that. Why is the beef with JK Rowling? Second, they say that this will make authors paranoid because then people will say that they must write gay characters to make them score the book points, right? But how is it harm to begin with? We think if authors feel pressured to be more inclusive, and that's a good pressure that we will outside of the house, because they will make the characters as gay as possible or as black as possible, and we think that's the benefit that we get. Second, if the paranoia is real, then we try to make the portrayal as accurate as possible. This is true, for example, in the movie of Moana, I don't know about the title, right? Basically, they wanted to make the character bald in the first place, but then Native American came out and said it doesn't make sense. If she has the power, then she should have hair. And Disney accepted that criticism by saying that, then they become more inclusive and they accept criticism from his Native American. The same way how Aquaman is casting Polynesian people who are actually part of the Aquaman saga. I don't know what Aquaman, but the point is, paranoia is good because it makes the portrayal more accurate and are more likely to be inclusive in the future, and really that's a good. And the harm that Roger came up and said, the harm is JK Rowling will have to sacrifice her own work. We think there's like a minimal trade-off that we need to make. Yes, probably he butchered her own works in some regard, but if the inclusion is something that we will get outside the house, we are willing to trade that off. I'll think a bit.
So I think opening opposition is misrepresenting opening domain quite a bit. The argument is not that people like this paranoid cast they will create gay character, but rather that they cannot create a perfect gay character. That's why new authors would approach this character. How do you respond to that argument?
Okay, so the pressure is for them to create the perfect gay character. So for them to achieve that, to meet the expectation, they will try to consult as much as gay people possible. They will make a council of minority LGBT asking what does it feel like to be a gay person, or how do gay people really do. I'm not sure, but the point is they will try to make it as palatable as possible. And if the woke people are so scary as what they claim them to be, that is a good thing because we can make these movies better in the future. So we think the paranoia is good, because it works on our favor. So second part is about minority, right? Because recognize that they never responded to any arguments of why representation is important. Because we say parody movies, for example, like Black Panther or Crazy Rich Asians, those are black-centric movie or Asian-centric movie, the problem is that people will still feel distance to the movie. For example, Black Panther is actually set in Wakanda, like isolated country that only involve black people. So the sense of normalcy is not there. It's not as relatable as making these characters or these minorities because it's normal people just like you and me. I think that's why it's not enough for us to only have Black Panthers and pretty rich Asians. Those movies are good. We support that. But I also think that it must come a lot more. For example, with this kind of movies, there's portrayed as normal people, just like you and me, and capable of doing a lot of things, just like everyone else. So we think that that's why these movies, by portraying them, for example, as Hermione as black and not white, it creates that the normalcy that what people keep expecting every character to be like them for some reason. I think it's unfair for all of us, like Asian people. We have to just deal with it. The fact that we grew up watching white people playing for subpar roles, and that's why it's unfair. And I think minorities deserve to have the good. Yeah.
So if you're going to make this character as normal and as identifiable as possible to a white person, how then do you get all your benefits of representing new cultures, so on and so forth?
Yes, the reason is because in status quo they are not portrayed as normal. They are forced to be replace certain characters or follow some trope. For example, be hot, whatever, like that Luke said, Luke told you. Those things are in status quo. So being normal is not a normal thing now. So that's why we want them to be normal. Just like to be a normal Weasley or like to be a Hermione, or like Dumbledore, whatever. These things we make them normal and they don't have to force pigeonhole themselves. And this also harms the actors and actors, right? Because the problem in the world is actor and actress have to pigeonhole themselves and they have no career progression. They can only work to get those kind of roles that they are token and they cannot expand their own potential. I think that's bad. And that's why we think the inclusion of these people as normal people, as like incomes are beneficial because they can progress their careers and also provide role models for individuals, and so I think open opposition is what we did.
JK Rowling is a profit-motivated author that cares nothing more than getting as much money as she can and as many fans as she can. I think the debate that was missing in the opening half is a good discussion on how these characters are likely to be portrayed. And I think both sides jumped to conclusion on how these characters are likely to be portrayed and suggested benefits or harms as a result of it. Opening up, what did they do? So they told you have no right to other cultures, author can hide previously biased or previously racist works, and then they explain to you about misrepresentation. So I'll differentiate myself in 3 ways. The first is that I'll tell you why specifically it's the wizarding world that requires this policy. Secondly, I'll explain to you why this misrepresentation occurs. Because other than simply saying JK Rowling will have canned features that white people want, there wasn't really a much substantive explanation on why JK Rowling is likely to portray these individuals this way. And lastly, and I think least importantly, I'll explain to you why backlash occurs. Note that I really think the biggest contention coming from the side of opening opposition is representation, and my argument will directly clash with this. So all my rebuttals will be integrated. So the first thing, like the most unimportant thing I'll deal with first is this whole backlash thing, right? Because opening Gov told you people will get angry and literally just stop there. So first, I'll explain to you the premise of why individuals are likely to get angry. The first is that individuals build strong emotional connections with the characters in these tropes, especially children. And the nuance here is that they often grew up with these books and they attach their identity very strongly to these books. And secondly, they have a strong connection with this authenticity. So they don't just have a connection to the Harry Potter world like as a very wide spectrum, but we think oftentimes what people do is they attach themselves to certain parts of the story. So they have a very strong emotional connection with the specific facts and authenticity of the book that like opposition violates if they have this policy. Secondly, often when you are forced to add in these diverse tropes, there are likely to be inconsistencies whether you like it or not. Maybe, like, okay, I would accept it, maybe sometimes there are inconsistencies, but more often than not, we think there are by virtue of having to add an entirely new character and forcing it into the book. Even the smallest inconsistency can piss off a hardcore fan. You don't want to take with this. Have a seat. But this is a response to opening opposition because it doesn't matter if the movie performs well or the movie performs badly. The fact that you are violating that person's version of Harry Potter, the fact that you're reducing the authenticity of that movie already proves that they get angry. This is important because it shows you that it isn't reliant on OG's characterization of the movies being bad, and it isn't reliant on OO's response that these movies are likely to turn out good. So we win this debate just based on that. But what's the outcome of this backlash, which I also think they missed out on? It's not just people get angry, right? It's about the realization, have a seat, that your identity as a white person cannot coexist with mine. You're like all these narratives about attacking me, about taking my culture, all these things are likely to be amped up in the world of opposition. The point at which you take something that is so integral to their society, something that they view as their culture, their childhood, and all this nonsense that white people believe. So in your world, they have more incentive to demonize ethnic minorities, they have more incentive to demonize your culture and reject it simply by virtue of it interfering with their lives. The point in which you interfere with their lives is the point in which they have more incentive to reject you, to demonize you in any way possible. But before I move on to the meat of this debate, come on, anyone? Yes, go for it.
Do you think that JK Rowling has ownership of the world, or who owns culture?
All right, some strong philosophical questions there that really doesn't make sense. I think who owns culture? The people that opt into the culture. Who owns JK Rowling's world? JK Rowling owns the world. JK Rowling doesn't have the right to take ownership of that culture. I don't know something there. You want to run it as extension, your choice. So, secondly, what about misrepresentation? And this is a very important part of this debate because no, if we win this debate because opening GAP and opening ops benefits are all contingent upon the way in which JK Rowling portrays these characters. So, what's the characterization I will have? That and this is also specifically nuanced to the wizarding world. No, that non-Western societies like Indian culture, Chinese culture have a lot of superstition buried in their culture. For instance, Nagini, the person in the Crimes of Grindelwald, is a snake in Indian mythology that is connected to Lord Shiva that they decided to dress up as Chinese culture. Just goes to show how they really misrepresent it. But the point I'm trying to make here is that non-Western ideologies have a lot of superstitions in them, comparatively more than Western ideologies. Why is this particularly important? In order for JK Rowling to make money, she has to make people as exotic as possible. Because if she doesn't make them as exotic and as authentic as possible, it doesn't add a new monetizable element to her books that she can gain money on. Have a seat. Why is this harmful? Then this is a response to opening up. This gives JK Rowling an incentive to follow all the harmful tropes that already exist in society. Have a seat. Why? Because it's easier to follow tropes that people already believe in than it is to have to recreate a character that has depth and has to shift seat from the pre-planned storyline. So you cannot assume that this person will be great. Like, don't let Luke get away with saying Luke will become Indian. That is absolute nonsense. Obviously, he's not, right? So how is JK Rowling realistically likely to do this? I think the main characters are still likely to be white. Have a seat. So that the main target of this boy in like rural Warwick is likely to still read their book. But, and here's what's important, they are likely to want to make these Asian characters as sideshows to spark some form of curiosity in these random tropes. It's easier, it's more monetizable to follow these tropes. So all the harms of misrepresentation that OG talked about will happen, and note that I proved the link, so I win, I get first. So before moving on, sure.
Yeah, so Emma, so we're making Hermione Priyanka Chopra, okay? Priyanka Chopra doesn't have to be Indian or anything. She can just be Hermione and be normal. Why is that a bad thing?
Yeah, because it's not your choice. Because she's not just going to hire Priyanka Chopra. She's going to make Priyanka Chopra the most Indian person in the world so that her book sells, so there's a new monetizable element. Don't just assume stuff, right? So what's the outcomes of all this? Number one, you entrench these stereotypes because these things are likely to be misrepresented because it's viewed through the superficial lens of a white woman that cannot quantify the struggle. It's based on biased information. Why is this harmful? We take this to the outcome. You interact with ethnic minorities with a misguided preconceived notion. It leads to one, more microaggressions, actual harms on the ground that hurt people. Second, it's harder for ethnic minorities to discover their identity because representation is useless if it isn't a representation of me, but some screwed up caricature of my culture that white people believe that I am. So the representation opening up once is pointless, so I win this debate. Thank you very much. But thirdly, minorities are all homogenized as these super cultural ethnic people that don't believe in science, that don't believe in modern advances, because JK Rowling has to make them look like 1940 cultural donkeys instead of the modern people that some of them actually are. So they're homogenized in your world as backward, as not believing in science, and as all the stereotypes that white people already believe about us. Never been prouder to be with me. Thank you.
I think this debate becomes unclear when nobody agrees on what sort of culture that they mean, right? Because when the whole government bench tries to argue that, oh, there will be a wrong representation of one culture, they never specify what kind of representation that they actually want. So here, Sia will enter the debate by explaining to you that if we manage to prove that there is no such thing as cultural ownership, then we win this debate because JK Rowling can do whatever she wants with his work, with her work, sorry. So now, looking at the idea of the culture representation itself. I think, for one, we cannot really define what is a cultural representation because we do not actually know it in the first place. There's a reason why in Crazy Rich Asian movies, for example, even if it portrays the culture of Asian people, but you still see backlash anyway. Why? Because even Asian people cannot agree on the one correct definite representation of the Asian culture itself. When you portray Singaporeans, for example, in Crazy Rich Asian movie, so the Indians, for example, the brown Asians also protest because they feel that it is not a representation of Asian culture. What does this tell you? This tells you that what is important in those representation itself is not the accuracy of the culture, but more on the spectrum there is accommodated in the representation. That's why even if JK Rowling choose to represent, I don't know, maybe the Nandini that is more white Asian, for example, the Asian American Nandini, it is also okay because at least she acknowledges the spectrum in which it also exists within the Asian culture. No thank you letter. That's why I believe that when you buy with this premise, you realize that JK Rowling can have a say on what kind of culture she wants to represent. Before I move on to my extensions, I will resolve two clashes coming from the whole on that point. That's important. No, thank you. One, I think number one about the influence that JK Rowling has, right? Because this is something that has been considered by all things. I just told you that by saying her failure, it will discourage all the other authors and whatnot. We believe that this is not true because I think it's more intuitive to believe that since JK Rowling is an example, they will learn from this mistake, right? They will say that no, this is wrong. I will criticize it. Of course, I will not do the same. Why will they copy the same thing that JK Rowling did if they know that it will save a lot of backlash, right? That thing just doesn't make any sense. But also about the second thing, about the whole palatable thing, right? Because the government argues that it is harmful because it cuts the elements, for example. One, they never specify what kind of elements will be cut because as far as I know, like I told you before, these different spectrums can still be accommodated. But also, regardless of this, right, we believe that at least it is still okay. Because number one, you see check and balances. The reason why Tilda Swinton was criticized for her casting as the ancient one in Doctor Strange, because people call out that, this is whitewash, for example. People criticize these things. You need to tell us why this thing will continue even more later in the future, because as we can see that people are progressing. Oh, then thank you, letter. What will I bring to you? What will CEO bring to you today? Number one, we'll explain why, even in our worst case scenario, dealing directly with OG, for example, why a wrong representation is still okay. But secondly, why it has to be uniquely through Harry Potter itself. Before I move on to my extension, sure.
Yeah. So culture isn't seen like culture may not be real, and you can prove that. But people in the world today has taken ownership of culture, and practical harm will ensue. So even if principally you prove they don't have ownership of culture, you have to deal with the real world.
Look, that's the thing, right? You need to explain to us why, by portraying your culture, your representation of the culture, why it will still accommodate everyone within the spectrum itself. Because we told you that you cannot please everyone. You will choose one kind of representation. And if, for example, JK Rowling chooses this kind of representation, it is her right. If you want to see another representation, maybe you can buy another book or you can write your own book. I don't know, as a movement. What is important in this case is that we talk about JK Rowling, whether she should stop expanding the wizarding world to other cultures or not. Because if we can prove to you that it has a good outcome, then I don't see why JK Rowling should be stopped from portraying other culture. The first extension, right? Why even if the representation is wrong, why it is still okay? Because realize that the Asian culture itself is not a definite culture. Like what I told you before, there is no such thing as cultural ownership. It is a melting pot of, for example, the yellow Asians, for example, the yellow Asians from I don't know, from Singapore, for example, from Malaysia, as opposed to, like, for example, the brown people coming from Bangladesh, and etc. This shows you that we should accommodate different kind of spectrums. Even if we should also accommodate the different spectrums, for example, coming from Nagini, the Asian American, we believe that it is also okay because he is also a minority anyway. Because it means that you at least will have the minority in the Western world, and you will have the Asian American people to be also represented in this mainstream culture. This is what JK Rowling envisions, right? It means that even if it is represented, at least it is one spectrum that is accommodated. Realize that in your side of the house, when you shut her down from any other form of representation, it means that you will not see any other people being able to relate to this culture being represented in her work, right? Because you also conceive of the importance of her work in this literary work. That's why we believe that it is still okay, because at least this is a baby step that you need to recognize. Because the moment when you let her show a particular culture and you criticize her, this means that she can utilize this as to make it better for her next expansion, right? It means that she will learn from this mistake. I do not see why he never explained to you why JK Rowling will still keep on repeating the same mistakes, because she's also profit oriented. She writes books for money. Like we do not object that. It means that she will be more likely to have the incentive to create a better book, to always revise herself, to always criticize herself, right? That's why I don't see that that it is not likely to happen. But the second. But also, secondly, why the uniqueness of the literature work by JK Rowling is very important, right? Why it has to be through these classic literatures, and why she has the right to have control over her work. Realize that books, movies, and etc. is also a form of freedom of expression. It means that you should be able to control your artwork. Just like, for example, in any other art debate, we will prove to you why the owner of the painter of the work also have the control over their artwork. Because like what I told you before, it is a form of the world that JK Rowling envisions, and she's trying her best, right? That's why even if for example you disagree with her, you can criticize her, you can point out her flaws, for example, in which she makes a mistake. But you still have to acknowledge the fact that she has to also be able to control the outcome of the decision. She also has the ownership on her work, right? We need to prove why it is okay to restrict this kind of freedom of expression. But also realize that her work is something that is inclusive to all the people in this world. It means that young children in school are also able to read her work. They will not be able to understand the importance of Black Lives Matter movements, for example, but they can relate to something that is portrayed in their childhood novel, for example. That's why being able to relate partly, for example, to Cho Chang as an Asian woman in Harry Potter is something that is highly important, because you can see that you have a representation in the mainstream media, for example, in the mainstream story that you're not excluded. They need to explain why in their world this representation will still be achieved, because what they offer to you is shutting down all the representation just because it might be wrong.
Yes, yeah.
I think the side opposition has a very confused idea of what this debate is about to begin with. But before I get into that, let me just clarify the extensions coming from the government. Not only did we tell you from the government, we're telling you that representation on their side of the house matter. A side of opposition wants to fight for representation as long as you just put some Asian in that, it's great. Now we have to tell you why it's wrong. Because one, it's useless. Why am I supposed to relate to some bad Chinese people and down the ones evidence when it doesn't really represent my culture to begin with? Number two, it entrenches further stereotypes of minorities and versus cultural. It's basically telling you that, like, oh, all these Asian stereotypes that you only see in movies, all these are common, and the fact is it actually harms the people on the ground, because it's shown as not modern. It's shown that these people are still living in that era where these stereotypes are so common to begin with, and it also shows that it's viewed through a superficial lens. We have to remember that this is coming from a white woman from England who has probably never really experienced any cultural experiences to begin with. Now, this is very, very harmful. Now, we also say that like it creates microaggressions and it's really hard. Why? Because it's harder for the ethnic minorities, especially those ethnic groups in like a country, a whitewashed country such as America. It's harder for them to discover their identity through these false perceptions. Like, what if they grow up watching Harry Potter and be like, is that really my culture? Am I supposed to eat noodles all day and like tell a joke once? So then this creates it's so much harder for them because it's harder for them to self-actualize. It's harder for them to further discover their self-identity on that, and it's really, really hard for them to connect to their culture, which they had no proper connection to begin with. Now, next point is how it's viewed through a superficial lens of a white woman that doesn't understand. We need to understand that this white woman really doesn't understand any of this culture, and we have proof to substantiate that. Nandini, for example, she was supposed to be an Indian slave for this whatever, and she put it as a Chinese woman to accommodate that character. How can you properly tell me that this woman knows exactly what culture she's talking about? But she clearly misrepresented a culture that just because it's under the Asian umbrella. Now that I've gone to that, I would just like to go into the rebuttals. Now, all wants to come up here and tell you that they are fine with trading off representation as long as there's cloud, as long as you get people to do this thing, and like as long as there's some form of Asian kid in there, it's fine. And now we tell you it's so harmful because they want to come up here and talk about how why representation matters and how it's empowerment, but if they want to start the proper like representation to begin with, not talking about, and you want to come up here and say that like, oh, why can't they just be normal? Hello, wearing a cheongsam and still being waving a wizard is still me being normal, but at least it's culturally properly representing my culture to begin with. It's not dressing up a Chinese woman in Indian clothes. It's not dressing up an Indian character with a Chinese woman. Now, then they want I'll tell you explicitly why this misrepresentation is so much more harmful, because they're based on this no, and like it's not this Asian people saying ching chong ling long all the time. It's literally representing what culture. It's like it's in the olden days, this kind of what we said olden days where the traditional wear are still a thing. So if you misrepresent that, clearly it's not going to be a good idea. And why this is because when you enter the fans, it clearly is going to do two things. It's going to affect your reputation as an author, which I think is very important to JK Rowling, considering she's a woman of clout and she has that platform to begin with, and you'll harm her reputation as a reputable author. Also because when the fans are angry, because you're causing further more misrepresentation towards the culture that's already being misrepresented to begin with. Now, and so like it's really confusing to me how Luke wants to come up here to talk about empowerment when it's a wrong representation to begin with. So I think by saying this out, we literally wipe out the whole case of all. Now let's move on to Surau. What do you want to come up here and talk about? You want to come up here and talk about cultural ownership. Panel, chat. Look, okay, maybe culture isn't real. Okay, sure. But in the status quo, there are already people, majority of the people on Earth already subscribe to a culture. So even if you disprove that culture doesn't exist, what does it do to the people on the ground? What does it matter to them? The reality of it is that people are still subscribing to this culture. People are still subscribing to all this discrimination and whatnot. So what do you have to say to this when literally all the harms that are exclusively on your side will not come in our? Now, basically.
Okay, so either the character will be normal, like what we say, or they'll have to be as exotic as possible, like what Han said. If that is true, doesn't that mean that JK Rowling will consult as many minorities as possible so that they can accurately depict that culture due to the paranoia that OG suggests?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know what he said. Anyways, I'll move on. Okay, so why it's like it doesn't make sense because like so like, okay, maybe you want to disapprove the culture, but this harms will still happen, the harms will still exist in our world. So the fact that CEO can come up here to go on this philosophical journey and say, oh yeah, culture doesn't exist, but the thing is the harm still exists, the harm is very real, the harm is still happening to people on the ground. So yeah, and you want to say that like, oh, representation matters, but the fact is, maybe you want to accommodate every single Asian from every single Asian culture, but the fact is you'll still accommodate 10 times more on outside, because why? Because you already don't have this layer of a voice coming from a white woman to say. So like in our, at least the Asians have a better say and of a representation of what happens. So they have an authentic say of what is their culture to begin with, instead of trying to override this white woman's voice of how their culture is represented to this mass majority. Now, and because of that, I would just like to further clarify that I think that opposition really understand the main problem, because of Asian culture in that is completely okay. And I really explain to you why that is really harmful. And also, closing on wants to come up here and talk about a philosophical debate of how culture doesn't really exist. But we've already proved to you that the harm still exists in the reality and how it's really, really harmful to people on the ground. Now, with that being said, a few more clarifications of our extensions and why this CEO will actually take this debate. I think we're the first thing to come up here and properly tell you what are the actual harms that are going to happen in the real world and how these people affect directly the people on the ground and how, because by saying this, we already clearly prove to you that all the harms they want to talk about is clearly going to only happen on the side of opposition, is much more worse on their side. And we would rather a world where JK Rowling doesn't simply throw an Asian kid and then for them to be fine with it and clear that as some form of racial representation, and like, yeah, and so like how it's quite completely useless to have a representation that doesn't even properly represent you. And we believe that if JK Rowling wants to write an Asian character, at least do it properly. You have full responsibility. If you decide to put an Asian character in that, you have full responsibility to represent that Asian character to its fullest. And we don't believe that because JK Rowling has not done justice to that, we believe that she should never again continue this misrepresentation.
The clearest thing that came from side CG is, look, because JK Rowling cannot accurately represent the culture, so she should not do it. This does allow rooms for, if JK Rowling can accurately represent the culture, then she should be able to allow it, right? Then they're not debating in the spirit of the motion, right? Because in the spirit of the motion, it does allow us to say, if she can do it right, then she should be allowed it. They need to defend under all circumstances. She's not allowed to write about other culture, whether is it an accurate representation or is it an inaccurate representation, right? Because we believe they have spiraled the motion to something that's most beneficial for them, and they do not want to engage with us on a, a larger extent, right? So first, I'm going to start with rebuttals, right, on the cases that come up, right? So CG. They came out, they tell us, look, white people are going to be angry because they relate with this character, and now you say this character is not Asian. Asian people are going to be angry because, no thank you, because it's a bad representation for the Asian people and whatnot, right? Okay, so first thing, if this thing is going to happen, then people are going to get angry, right? When people get angry, what do? I disagree with you, and then they create a discourse, right? They'll disagree and they'll voice out their concern. When they do voice out their concern, it means there's kind of discourse going on from both sides. Hey, look, this is not the accurate representation. Hey, look, that is not the accurate representation. Then this allows for a better understanding of what the representation is. We believe, sit down. We believe this in itself is a benefit because this kind of discourse allows people to shape what representation of culture is like in the current day society, because we conceive that culture is ever changing. This discourse is necessary for it to always change, right? No, thank you. Move it, sit down, right? And the second premise is that, look, they say, look, people who are misrepresented are very, very, very sad. Okay, let me ask you this. You need to prove on your framing that firstly, that the person needs to identify with the individual in that story later, right? Under every and all circumstances, right? Your argument only stands in that framing, because if you do say, okay, I don't agree that that person is me, but then why do you need to actively relate yourself to that individual when you don't see that person? You can just opt out and say that is not me. Why? Like the harms that that will happen in CG is only at the point in which people go in and relate to it. But if the individuals are totally unrelatable to them, the harm will not exist because people cannot relate to those the arguments in which they've been trying to run. Right? Or not? No, thank you. Sit down. Right. Right. So. Right, there's that. Now the second thing probably deal with OG. OG come up, what did they say? This is what OG said, right? So OG said, look, representation does not exist because, like, so OG proved that it has not always existed within the wizarding world of Harry Potter, right? So that's why now she comes up and she's trying to change the rhetoric. So I guess I just need to come and prove if if they really existed, that there are other cultures within the wizarding world, that means that then it takes down the whole case. So how do I prove that other cultures already exist within the wizarding world when it comes to Harry Potter, right? So I don't know, I can't really quite remember the dragon's name, but I remember there's a Hungarian dragon there. There's also the Chinese flying dragons and whatnot. There's also Cho Chang and the Indian twin sisters, right? These means within the world itself, there's already implicit hints that it is much more than what we actually see, right? There are a lot of myths, like even the Ministry of Defense, there is a guy who's a black Muslim, right? This means that the world is much larger than what we actually think that it is. We cannot just say, look, she didn't say that explicitly, that doesn't exist, right? So, let's move on, thank you, right? Let's move on to my argument, in which whether the world is her own, right? So, we believe that the world is her own because the world itself is in her mind. So, how does she claim ownership of the world, and why should she be able to continue writing these things, right? Because she should be, firstly, in principle, allowed to express her own opinion. Because later, I'll take you guys before 6, right? Because in government, what they're going to happen, the procedures that's going to happen, is they're going to limit people's ability to express what they are thinking, right? Because they say, no, it is harmful to society, the harms were not explicitly present, but if you say you shouldn't say hate speech and whatnot, maybe that's debatable, but now you're telling people you have no rights to your opinion, you have no rights to your expression, you have no rights to your own storytelling. Your story is mine, right? This means that you rob individuals of the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, right? That is harmful because you don't allow people to continue talking, and you who is to say what can you express in society and what can you not? Sit down, right? Later, right? Because I tell you that the world is her own. How is the world her own, right? Because she created the world, she shared it to the public, and the public accessed it, and she got rewarded from it, right? It is hers, because why is this different from Tesla, from Google, from projects, or maybe from the tournaments, right? These are things that are created by the people. They should be credited back to the people, and whatever happens within those things should be theirs and their own. Right? That's why we move on to the idea that there is no ownership of culture. Because before 6, closing.
This debate has to be a balance of likelihood of how a privileged white woman that wants money is likely to represent Asian characters. But even so, at the very least, the backlash that happens because of the lack of authenticity is still an argument in your worst case.
Right, so this is where we come out our CEO calls out our position in this debate, right? We come in and we tell you that it was a mess that happened before, and whether the benefits they're arguing for are marginal at best. Why is it in principle JK Rowling should be allowed to continue doing this, and why is it beneficial or as to a greater society, right? Because as my elbow said, there is no such thing as ownership of culture, because as you can see in the case of the Indians and the Japanese, right? The Japanese, if you say sushi, they all love it. If the Indians love their curry everywhere around the world, right? There is no cultural appropriation or whatnot. It means that people can use your culture, and if your culture is going overseas, they're going to like it very much, right? There is also no accurate representation of culture, because in the case of Crazy Rich Asians, there are people who say this, there are people who say that. Even within Japan itself, there are people from Okinawa and there are people from Shishoku. They both disagree upon what their culture is. Even in Malaysia itself, there's Chinese, Malaysian, Indian. These different cultures exist. They're all the same culture. Everyone say no, that is not. But who is to decide what is the accurate culture? And because there is no accurate culture, and everyone is going to be angry, what's the worst case scenario then? The worst case scenario that's going to happen, because everyone's going to be angry, as Navin correctly pointed out, right? What is going to happen on their side is that the authors themselves are more harmed, because they are not able to express whatever they think. They're not able to change their society and whatnot. On their side, they also limit the amount of representation to society. Because when people don't allow you to express whatever you want and it has to be abide by the rules, it means that whatever the other people from society, like other writers, whatnot, will not be able to continue doing their work or access the other representations. With that,